The 1960s in America, a decade of change, challenge, and progress. But amidst the Cultural Revolution and other international affairs, another transformation was taking place at home. Despite post-war prosperity, poverty remained a stark reality for millions, especially minorities. In 1962, nearly 1 in 5 Americans lived below the poverty line. Enter President Lyndon B. Johnson and his vision for a great society. In 1964, Johnson declared an unconditional war on poverty in America. This declaration ushered in the federal era of social services. A flurry of landmark legislation followed, including the Economic Opportunity Act of 1964. This act was a cornerstone of Johnson's war on poverty. He created the Office of Economic Opportunity to oversee programs including the Job Corps, Head Start, Volunteers in Service to America, Community Action Programs, and the Food Stamp Act of 1964. While food stamps had already existed since nearly 20 years prior, this act made them permanent and increased membership by 500%. Next is the Social Security Amendments of 1965, and this legislation created two programs that would fundamentally change healthcare in America, which are Medicare, which is federal health insurance for people 65 and older, regardless of background, and Medicaid, which is a joint federal and state program providing health coverage to low-income individuals. These programs dramatically increased access to healthcare for millions of Americans. Next, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965. This act provided federal funding to K-12 schools, emphasizing equal access to education. It established programs that are still in use today, such as Title I, the Bilingual Education Act, and the Higher Education Act of 1965. This legislation increased federal money given to universities, created scholarships, and provided low-interest loans for students. It made higher education more accessible to millions of Americans. These programs marked a significant shift. For the first time, the federal government took a leading role in providing social services previously left to states and charities. The impact was profound. By 1970, the poverty rate had dropped to 12.6%. Millions gained access to healthcare, education, and economic opportunities. The federal era of social services in the 1960s reshaped America's social landscape. It set a new standard for the government's role in ensuring the welfare of its citizens. Not all was perfect, though. Johnson was also criticized for making promises he couldn't keep. He ran as a peaceful, non-war option, yet he was the one who massively scaled up the Vietnam War, despite warnings from his advisors. And as money is needed to fund a war, these programs were underfunded throughout due to not having just enough money in the entire government. And lots of complaints were made about the actual effectiveness of these programs.
Created using Powtoon.